Hello dear friends, I'm Alder Santos, and welcome to our channel, Legends of Baseball. Richie Sexson is a name that many baseball fans remember with admiration. Yet curiously, he remains somewhat underrated when discussing early 2000s legends. With over 300 career home runs, Sexson combined an imposing physical presence with a powerful swing capable of changing the course of any game in seconds. However, his impact on the field was not always matched by media recognition or prestigious awards, making his career a true enigma for baseball enthusiasts. How could such a dominant player remain relatively out of the MLB spotlight? From his first appearances in Major League Baseball, Sexson impressed with his potential as a slugger. Drafted by the Cleveland Indians in 1993, he debuted in 1997 and quickly showed he was more than just another power hitter. His size, combined with a unique swing mechanics, made every at-bat a real home run threat. While many hitters of his era gained fame quickly, Sexson built his legacy more quietly, with consistency and explosive power, earning respect on the field and sparking curiosity about just how far his talent could take him. Watch this video until the end and tell us, what moment of Richie Sexson's career impressed you the most? Leave your comment below, share your opinions, curiosities, and stories about this powerful hitter, and let's discuss together his impact on MLB and his legacy as one of the most feared sluggers of the early 2000s. Sexson's true rise came with his trade to the Milwaukee Brewers in 2000, where he became one of the league's most feared power hitters. Consecutive seasons with over 40 home runs and franchise record achievements put him on the radar of fans and critics alike. Yet, Sexson remained an almost enigmatic figure, impressive in performance, but without becoming a name constantly mentioned among MLB's greats. In this video, we will explore his journey, from his first steps in the league to the peak of his career, the physical and critical challenges he faced, and why, despite his power and impressive numbers, Richie Sexson is still considered an underrated slugger. Richie Sexson began his journey to Major League Baseball when he was selected in the 24th round of the 1993 draft by the Cleveland Indians. Despite not being a high-profile pick, he quickly exceeded expectations with his performance in the minor leagues, showing a rare slugger profile for someone of his imposing stature. At 6 feet 7 inches, 2.01 meters, Sexson stood out from the very first games in the minors, not only for his physical presence, but for the natural power of his swing and his ability to hit to all fields. Over 4 years in the minors, he put up impressive numbers that caught the Indians' management's attention and put him on the radar as one of the system's most promising offensive talents. He made his MLB debut in 1997, called up by the Indians to a roster full of established names like Manny Ramirez, Jim Thome, and David Justice. Amid so many stars, Sexson had to fight for playing time. But even in limited appearances, he left his mark with powerful hits and an aggressive approach at the plate. His ability to generate solid contact and produce extra base hits quickly drew the attention of analysts, who saw him as an interesting piece for the franchise's future. Even with restricted playing time at that stage, Richie made the most of every opportunity to showcase his strength and offensive potential. Sexson's transition to a more consistent role was gradual but inevitable. By 1998, he had more regular at-bats and began establishing himself as a reliable hitter. His long, powerful swing, although generating a fair number of strikeouts, also produced impressive home runs and game-changing hits. He demonstrated maturity beyond his age, showing no intimidation against veteran pitchers and often being used in high-pressure situations. Cleveland fans began seeing in Sexson a new face for the team's offensive future, especially during a period when the club sought to maintain competitiveness in the American League. Even as part of a talented generation, Richie Sexson stood out for his distinct offensive profile. In an era where raw power was starting to dominate baseball, he represented the evolution of the modern slugger, tall, powerful, and capable of making an immediate impact on the game, while still refining his defense and developing contact consistency. His offensive contributions were enough to secure his continued presence in the team's lineup. His promising start with the Indians laid a solid foundation for the successful years that followed, paving the way for a career marked by majestic home runs and high-performing seasons. Richie Sexson's trade to the Milwaukee Brewers in 2000 marked the beginning of the most explosive phase of his career. After showing glimpses of power with the Cleveland Indians, he arrived in Milwaukee with the opportunity to become a central figure in the lineup, and he did not disappoint. The more relaxed environment and the absence of established stars ahead of him allowed Sexson to assume a leading role. In his first full season with the Brewers, in 2001, he exploded with 45 home runs and 125 RBIs, numbers that placed him among MLB's top sluggers. Sexson quickly became the symbol of the franchise's offensive power. His long, fluid swing, combined with his imposing stature, 6 feet 7 inches, made him a constant threat at the plate. Even as the Brewers struggled in the standings, fans found genuine excitement in Sexson's performance. He was the type of player who could change a game with a single swing, especially late in games. His presence commanded respect from opposing pitchers, who often preferred to walk him rather than risk giving up a home run in 2002. Even with slightly lower numbers than the previous year, Sexson remained the Brewers' main offensive force. He hit 29 home runs and drove in 102 runs, maintaining his reputation as an elite hitter. But it was in 2003 that he had another monumental season: 45 home runs and 124 RBIs, almost exactly mirroring his 2001 achievements. These numbers placed him among the National League leaders in both categories, and his name began to be frequently included in conversations about the league's best power hitters at the time. During his time in Milwaukee, Richie Sexson participated in 2 All-Star games, 2002 and 2003, honors that solidified his status as one of the premier first basemen of his era. Beyond the numbers, he brought credibility and a recognizable face to the franchise during years of limited team success. While the Brewers were still trying to build a competitive team around him, Sexson consistently delivered, also serving as a model of durability, playing in nearly every game during his tenure with the club. The consistency of his production with the Brewers was particularly notable given that he played in a stadium, Miller Park, that, although hitter-friendly, required patience and careful pitch reading. Sexson displayed discipline at the plate, not relying solely on brute strength, but also working counts to his advantage. His ability to turn mediocre pitches into long hits was a skill few of his contemporaries could match. The combination of natural power and a refined approach made him not just a slugger, but a complete hitter. Even though the Brewers eventually decided to trade him to the Arizona Diamondbacks after the 2003 season, Richie Sexson's time in Milwaukee remains the absolute peak of his career. Those were years in which he clearly established himself among the greatest power hitters of his generation. His numbers with the team still rank among the best in franchise history, and his impact continues to be remembered by fans as one of the few highlights during a challenging period for the organization. In Milwaukee, Sexson didn't just shine. He left a lasting mark on baseball. The 2001 season was a turning point in Richie Sexson's career and in the recent history of the Milwaukee Brewers. That year, the 6 feet 7 inches slugger reached 45 home runs, tying the franchise record for a single season, a feat that projected him not only as a local star, but as one of the top power hitters in Major League Baseball. The impact was immediate and profound. Brewers fans, who had long lacked offensive icons since the days of Robin Yount and Paul Molitor, saw in Sexson a new symbol of power and hope amidst modest team campaigns. Sexson's 45 home runs were not just a fleeting explosion, but the result of a full season of consistency, discipline, and pure power at the plate. His swing was unmistakable, long, fluid, and capable of generating impressive exit velocity. He punished pitchers with fastballs, sliders, and curveballs alike, showing both adaptability and offensive intelligence. Beyond the volume, the quality of his home runs was also striking. Many came in crucial moments that changed the course of games or kept the Brewers competitive. This combination of quantity and impact solidified his reputation as one of the most feared sluggers in the league. The historic 45 home run mark also placed him on an unprecedented level for a Brewers player, equaling the record set by Gorman Thomas in 1979. While Thomas was an idol of the 1980s, Sexson's achievement gained extra prominence because it was accomplished during a less successful period for the franchise, highlighting his individual performance even more. National media began mentioning his name more frequently, and all-star selections became a natural recognition. He was no longer just a promising prospect. Richie Sexson was officially a dominant force in MLB. The 2001 accomplishment marked the beginning of an era in which Sexson would be consistently associated with offensive power within the Milwaukee franchise. Even after his departure years later, those 45 home runs remained the club's benchmark for power. Fans fondly remembered the nights when Sexson launched massive shots at Miller Park, sending the stands into eruptions with each decisive swing. His name was forever etched among the franchise's greats, not only for the numbers, but for the way he carried the responsibility of being the team's main offensive presence during that period. Richie Sexson's rise to all-star status was a natural consequence of his consistent and devastating performance at the plate. After consecutive seasons with impressive home run and RBI totals, he was selected to the All-Star Game in 2002 and again in 2003, cementing his reputation as one of the National League's most respected power hitters. The selections reflected not only his statistics, but also the impact he had on games, making him an intimidating presence for any pitcher. His imposing stature, combined with a sharp swing and the ability to change the course of a game with a single hit, made him one of the most feared players at his position. During these years, Sexson impressed not only with raw power, but also with consistency. He maintained a high level of offensive production throughout the season without relying solely on occasional peaks. His ability to stay healthy and productive was admired by coaches and teammates, who recognized him as a committed and reliable professional. At the 2002 All-Star Game, held in Milwaukee, his home at the time, Sexson was greeted enthusiastically by Brewers fans who saw the selection as recognition of everything he represented for the franchise: power, quiet leadership, and total commitment. In addition to fan recognition, the respect of his peers was evident. Sexson was frequently mentioned by opposing players as one of the hardest hitters to face due to his plate coverage and the power he displayed in all strike zones. Even when not hitting home runs, he could work counts effectively and deliver crucial hits, constantly pressuring opposing defenses. This made him valuable not just statistically but strategically, as his mere presence in the lineup altered how pitchers approached both preceding and following batters. These standout seasons also established Sexson's image as a benchmark among MLB offensive first basemen of the early 2000s. He belonged to an elite group that included names like Jim Thome, Todd Helton, and Carlos Delgado, players who not only put up impressive numbers, but also symbolized the league's most potent offensive talent. Being chosen for 2 consecutive All-Star games was a sign of validation, both from fans and fellow players, and immortalized the peak of Richie Sexson's career as a period in which he didn't just excel, he dominated the trade of Richie Sexson. to the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2004 was met with high expectations from both the franchise and its fans, who hoped he would become the new offensive cornerstone of the team. Coming off highly productive years with the Brewers, Sexson carried the reputation of being one of the most feared hitters in the league, and his arrival in Arizona was seen as a decisive step in the team's attempt to return to playoff contention. With his power at the plate and proven experience, the plan was for him to form the heart of the Diamondbacks lineup and lead the team offensively for several seasons. However, this promising phase was quickly interrupted by a severe shoulder injury early in the 2004 season. After playing just 23 games, Sexson injured his left shoulder while swinging, and the injury was aggravated by attempts at an early return. The injury required surgery and sidelined him for the rest of the season, frustrating both the player and the franchise, which had invested heavily in his potential. The impact was felt not only in the team's offensive production, but also in the morale of the group, which had counted on the veteran as a central piece in its rebuilding plan. This short and unfortunate stint with the Diamondbacks marked a turning point in Sexson's career. While he was still capable of producing at a high level later, the injury raised doubts about his physical durability and disrupted the momentum he had built at the peak of his form. Despite good intentions on both sides, Sexson's time in Arizona never had the chance to develop as planned, and his departure at the end of the season showed how unforgiving baseball can be when faced with unforeseen setbacks. Still, even in so few games, he managed to display flashes of his power, hitting 9 home runs and driving in 23 runs before the injury prematurely ended his journey in the desert. After the frustrating, injury-shortened 2004 season, Richie Sexson found a new opportunity to restart his career by signing a multi-million-dollar contract with the Seattle Mariners before the start of the 2005 campaign. The franchise, looking to revitalize its offensive identity and add power to its lineup, invested heavily in Sexson, despite uncertainties about his physical recovery. The arrival of a slugger with a history of 40 home run seasons was seen as a key piece in the Mariners' attempt to regain competitiveness in the tough American League West Division. For Sexson, it was a chance to prove he was still a dominant force in the league, and he delivered. Right in his first season with the Mariners, Sexson showed that his power had not diminished. He hit 39 home runs and drove in 121 runs, becoming the team's primary hitter and one of the standout offensive players in the American League. His presence in the middle of the lineup gave the Mariners a legitimate threat in every at-bat, and his consistency throughout the season was crucial for keeping the team competitive in many games. Beyond the numbers, Sexson regained the respect of opposing pitchers who frequently avoided direct confrontations with him in critical situations. His full recovery became one of the great stories of the 2005 season. Immediate success in Seattle solidified Sexson's return to MLB star status, and he was once again seen as one of the league's most dangerous power hitters. His combination of height, reach, and power made him an intimidating presence at the plate, and his performance rekindled hope among Mariners fans that the team could build a solid future around him. Additionally, his work ethic and professionalism following the injury helped change perceptions about his durability and commitment. Sexson had overcome a critical period and, with his performance, reaffirmed what many already knew. When healthy, he was one of baseball's most lethal power hitters. After his 2 initial standout seasons with the Mariners, Richie Sexson began showing signs of decline in 2007. His performance at the plate dropped considerably, with his batting average falling and home run frequency decreasing. The offensive production that had once sustained his reputation as a slugger became sporadic, generating frustration among fans who expected more from a player with a high-priced contract. The decline was especially felt by a team already struggling to compete in a demanding division, and Sexson, who had been signed to be an offensive cornerstone, became one of the main targets of criticism. The situation worsened in 2008, when his performance reached alarmingly low levels for a player of his position and stature. His batting average fell below .220, and his home run production, his primary contribution, was no longer sufficient to offset long stretches of inefficiency at the plate. The contrast between his high salary and his lack of impact on the field became a recurring topic in Seattle sports media and among fans. Pressure mounted with each series of games, and the patience of fans with the veteran, once a symbol of hope, was increasingly exhausted. This difficult phase culminated with the Mariners releasing Sexson during the 2008 season, ending a stint that began with promise and ended in disappointment. For many, his decline symbolized the risks of long, expensive contracts with power hitters who surpassed their physical peak. Despite the criticism and the bitter ending in Seattle, Richie Sexson's journey during this period served as a reminder of how quickly an athlete's fortune can change in MLB, and how expectations can become a heavy burden when performance fails to follow. Still, his initial impact and the impressive numbers from his early seasons with the Mariners cannot be ignored when evaluating his overall legacy in the sport. Richie Sexson immediately stood out due to his impressive physical stature. At 6 feet 7 inches, 2.01 meters, he was one of the tallest players in MLB, giving him an intimidating presence at the plate. This height not only drew visual attention, but also provided unique mechanical advantages. His long arms allowed for remarkable swing extension, covering more of the strike zone than most players. This made him a constant threat to opposing pitchers, as even pitches outside the heart of the zone could be turned into home runs thanks to his range of motion. Beyond his size, Sexson's mechanics were carefully studied and refined to maximize his hitting power. His swing was long but extremely well-timed, with an explosive burst of strength at the end of the motion. He kept his feet planted and his base balanced, allowing him to generate enough torque even against fastballs or breaking pitches. The sound of bat meeting ball was unmistakable when Sexson made precise contact, a crisp, deep crack that often sent the ball far beyond the outfield fences. His style was a rare combination of physical reach, raw power, and polished technique, something very few players could bring together in a single package. The impact of this combination was felt not only in the statistics, but also in how opposing teams approached him. Often, pitchers preferred to walk Sexson rather than risk facing him in high-pressure situations, especially with runners on base. His reputation as a pure slugger was built on this image of raw power, reinforced by his unusual height and commanding presence. While he struggled at times with certain pitch types and slumps, when at his best, Richie Sexson was one of the most feared hitters in the league, a true symbol of the offensive power that defined the era in which he played. Richie Sexson's career came to a relatively quiet end compared to the highs and lows that marked his standout years in MLB. After leaving the Mariners, he had a brief stint with the New York Yankees in 2008, but was unable to regain the productivity he had shown in previous seasons. Accumulated injuries, particularly to his shoulders, and the natural wear of the grueling league schedule contributed to performance that fell short of expectations, making his time with the Yankees more symbolic than impactful. This final period, though brief, highlighted the physical limits even extraordinary power hitters face over long, demanding careers. Despite his early retirement, Sexson's career left a significant mark on MLB's offensive landscape. He retired at the age of 33, relatively young for a player of his stature and potential, yet he had already amassed impressive statistics, over 300 home runs and hundreds of RBIs across his career. His ability to generate impact at the plate, especially during his peak years in Milwaukee and Seattle, solidified his name as one of the most feared sluggers of the early 2000s. Even with a subdued ending, his legacy is remembered by fans, analysts, and fellow players as an example of pure offensive power. Richie Sexson's legacy goes beyond the numbers. He represented a player whose combination of physical stature and powerful swing mechanics redefined what a power hitter could contribute to the game. His impact in the lineup, the way he turned every at-bat into a real home run threat, and the consistency he maintained during his peak years demonstrate that, although his career ended early, his contribution to modern baseball remains significant. Sexson retired, leaving a lasting memory of power, respect from opponents, and inspiration for future players who aspire to dominate the plate with strength and presence. In Seattle, Sexson showed he could change the course of any game with a powerful swing, consistently accumulating home runs and RBIs. His combination of extraordinary size and refined technique allowed him to make an immediate impact in every at-bat, making him a constant threat to any pitcher in the league. Even though his name was not always mentioned among Hall of Fame candidates, his performance during peak seasons placed him among the most respected power hitters of the early 2000s. The recognition of Sexson often came indirectly through the respect of peers, opponents, and fans who witnessed his moments of offensive explosion. He redefined what was expected from a tall, muscular power hitter, proving that the combination of size, reach, and swing mechanics could produce above-average offensive output, even in positions not traditionally associated with power. His long, frequent home runs not only changed the outcome of games, but also boosted team morale and intimidated opposing pitchers, making clear that his influence went far beyond basic statistics, despite a relatively quiet career ending in injuries that limited his longevity. Richie Sexson's impact remains alive in the memory of MLB fans and experts. He became a symbol of the early 2000s slugger era, a player capable of combining physical presence and raw power in a package that challenged defenders and changed games. His legacy as an underrated slugger serves as a reminder that immediate recognition does not always reflect a player's true influence in his era, and that Sexson's strength, consistency, and immediate impact guarantee his place among the top hitters of his generation. Richie Sexson leaves a valuable lesson about how talent and physicality can transform the game, even if a career is short or marked by highs and lows. His imposing presence at the plate and ability to generate impressive home runs redefined the concept of a slugger in the early 2000s. He demonstrated that, regardless of position or market size, it is possible to leave a profound mark on the sport through power, discipline, and dedication. Every swing from Sexson carried not only strength, but also the promise of immediate impact for his team. Despite injuries and performance declines that interrupted his peak, Sexson's career shows how perseverance can keep a player relevant in a league as competitive as MLB. Even after the severe shoulder injury with the Diamondbacks, he returned strong with the Mariners, demonstrating resilience and commitment to regaining star status. This ability to overcome physical and mental adversity is a reminder that raw talent must be paired with courage and determination to produce tangible results. Richie Sexson's career also highlights the challenges of high expectations and multi-million-dollar contracts. The pressure to live up to financial investments, combined with media and fan criticism during periods of low productivity, reveals the human side of a professional athlete. He faced these situations with the same intensity he brought to the plate, teaching that the way we handle external pressure can influence both performance and the perception of our legacy. Richie Sexson was more than just numbers. He was presence and inspiration. His imposing physical stature and powerful mechanics made him a constant threat with every at-bat, reminding us that athletic excellence is measured not only by consistency, but also by the immediate impact a player can have in each game. He redefined the role of a power hitter on teams that needed offensive strength, becoming a benchmark for future generations of sluggers striving to stand out in similar positions. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you'll be alerted whenever new content is uploaded. Don't forget to leave your comment and share with your friends. Sexson's legacy, though often underrated, remains alive in the memories of fans and experts who recognize his significance in the context of MLB. Over 300 home runs and impactful seasons in Milwaukee and Seattle are proof that he left his mark on baseball, even without reaching the Hall of Fame. Reflecting on his career reminds us that recognition and legacy do not always go hand in hand, but consistency, dedication, and intensity on the field are what truly define a great player. Finally, looking at Richie Sexson's journey is a lesson in understanding that greatness in sports goes beyond titles or awards. It's about how each player faces challenges, overcomes physical and mental limitations, and leaves a mark on their team and the league. Sexson inspires us to value effort, determination, and courage, showing that intensity and passion for the game are as important as the final statistics. He proved that a slugger can be memorable not only for the numbers, but also for the energy and presence they bring to each game, teaching lessons that transcend baseball. Until the next journey, dear friends and baseball lovers,